QI, the show that knows what's what like I know the back of my onions. So, let's meet tonight's men amongst men. We have Rich Hall, Arthur Smith, Dara O'Brien and Alan Davis. Welcome one, welcome all. Let's hear your manly sounds, please, gentlemen. Rich goes... And Arthur? And Dara. And Alan. So, let's begin with question one. And that's for Rich. What would you say if I said to you that the British Empire was built on diarrhoea?
Say you were full of shit. Any word that ends in "ria" is just bad news, isn't it? Diarrhea, pyorrhea, gonorrhea, North Korea.
North Korea.
Chris Ria?
Yeah.
To be fair, speaking of someone obviously whose antecedents were members of the British Empire themselves, happily of course, diarrhoea was very much the least of our problems while the English were in the country. Really, we'd have been glad of a bit of diarrhoea. I mean, there's very few recorded conversations between Irish peasants in the 1840s that went, "Paddy, you're looking very thin. I know the food is just running through me at the moment." This spicy British food doesn't appeal to me at all.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, the question is oddly framed because actually the British Empire came about because the British was the first imperial power to overcome the problem of diarrhoea. Up until the 18th century, almost every invading army anywhere in the world was laid low by diarrhoea, particularly the French. They kept having excrement so close to their food, if not on it. And it was not understood that this was a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, Stephen.
Isn't it?
No.
Someone's
I think you'll find more faeces with your food it actually improves your health. I've overstated it a touch.
I think you might have done.
But I think it's generally agreed that children don't eat enough, you know, bad things, in a way. Everything's sanitised and their bodies aren't used to it when they have to fight off infections.
I think it's absolutely right. If everyone lives in a plastic bubble, the moment the bubble is removed, they die of something or other very fast.
Particularly if the bubble is underwater, for example.
Exactly.
There's a very sudden pressure change you just can't deal with in that situation. So the notion of an army marching on a stomach is more that the army tended to march on the contents of a preceding soldier's stomach as they were walking along.
There were two eminent British figures, one called Pringle, who did it for the army, another one called Lind, who did it for the navy.
Presumably Pringle had a small moustache.
Latrines. We invented latrines.
Well, that's right. We
that's
basically...
a French word.
I know.
Latrine must have been French for kitchen.
Well, you're almost right. I mean, the French did extraordinary things. I mean, they buried their bodies. Instead of burying them at sea, they buried them actually in the ship. In the bilge part, the bottom of the ballast part. Yeah. So imagine the stench.
I remember reading that on the approach to Moscow, that the French soldiers used to sleep inside the dead bodies of horses at night, because obviously it's warm, the dead body. So, I mean, that's not a comfortable night, is it? Even Travelodge is better than that, you know?
Yes, for the wrong reasons, Lind and Pringle thought the right thing. In other words, they believed that disease was all about smell, and if something smelt bad, you would be ill.
We had a maths teacher at school who smelled
Pringle laid down rules for the army about how far faeces and everything to do with faeces should be from food. And as a result, we had far less diarrhoea, far less enteric fever than any other army around the world. And also said for the Navy that they should eat lemons. Because of scurvy, vitamins weren't known about till 1912, but because almost every country that grew lemons hated Britain, the only countries we could get anything close to it was the Caribbean, where there were limes, which are actually half as effective, and hence British, of course, were called limeys. We should really have been called lemonies.
Yeah.
Because the Navy did realise that lemons were twice as effective.
Vitamin C tablets,
yeah.
I presume.
Multivits.
I mean, if you'd just gone to Boots, really, at the start of the trip.
You know, they say that the wheel is the greatest invention ever, but I think it's probably the second wheel, because... Have you ever seen a guy on a unicycle? What an asshole.
In the Battle of El Alamein, there's a strong historical argument it was won because more than 50% of the German army in North Africa at the time had diarrhea, and Rommel himself was in hospital on the first day of the Battle of El Alamein with the squits.
My father actually was genuinely at El Alamein, and he was the only soldier, according to him, who didn't have the runs, and he was actually constipated. That's what he said.
And he had minded,
this was one of his great lines, I had to dig it out with a stick.
And it is to such great men that we owe our freedom. And we thank you. There you are.
It's really put me off going to war. I was all right with the killing and the mayhem, but the shit.
You don't, exactly. You don't see it in war films, and yet it is something that absolutely drives humans everywhere. I mean, it is our...
Do you know, I feel, though, in many ways, we've pretty well done diarrhoea.
I think we have. We're ready to move on, in fact. We'll move on to a question for Dara. Now, what begins with B...
I thought we were done with diarrhea.
All right.
It's really an anagram, your name, isn't it?
Well, it's quite possibly an anagram, but what anagram? Well, everything.
Diarrhea.
It's an anagram
No,
with a great...
it's not. There's only 4 letters in there.
It's an anagram of the great drama school RADA. That's what it's an anagram of.
With all the rest of it, there's an O, isn't there?
There's an O, yeah, there's a B, there's an N, yeah, as if my name is roughly NB diarrhea.
Dara.
Dara!
Yes. Dara! So, Dara, what begins with a B and is illegal in Turkmenistan?
Begins with a B and is illegal in Turkmenistan.
Begins with a B, yes.
Well, presumably a plague of bees would be...
Would begin with one B.
There is a town in Turkmenistan called Mary.
Mary's an odd name for it.
Is there a Mary there?
There is a Mary, yeah.
Oh, my God, you're absolutely right.
Seeming there's also a large region called Mary as well in Turkmenistan.
That's Mary, Mary, and there's a little town called Quite Contrary. Buggery? Is it buggery?
It's not... Well, actually, as far as I know, it may be illegal buggery.
Bestiality?
No, it's something weird. I mean, it's
Bear baiting. Ballet.
Ballet is the right answer. Ballet is illegal.
Illegal?
In a country that used to be part of the Soviet...
Arrest that man.
There,
Is that a man?
It could be man. There is a very, very odd man indeed called Sapamurad Niyazov, who is the head of this country, Turkmenistan, and there he is.
Is he from Mary? He doesn't look like he is, does he?
No, he's not. He's actually from Ashgabat, which is the capital. Ashgabat! And he is one of the oddest world leaders.
You, ballerina!
Yeah, exactly. 2001. Not only that, he's named January after himself. So his face appears on millions of yogurt pots. If you buy a yogurt pot in Turkmenistan, his face will be on it.
What's the point of that?
Well, exactly. I mean, power has gone to his head.
It looks like a face that would curdle milk. Is it on the inside of the yogurt pot?
Perhaps if you are caught performing ballet, you're arrested.
Presumably you would be arrested.
Even for a small plie?
I've got other signs, like with tutus and big X's through them.
No ballet here. Yeah. There must be some kind of underground ballet dancing club.
Yeah, ballet club with Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Well, he also fired 15,000 nurses in Turkmenistan, Niyazov, and replaced them with army conscripts. Something odd
This
about
sounds like a place where Bush needs to go in and kick some more.
Now, it's time for a question for Arthur. What's quite interesting about digestive biscuits?
Well, it's a hard-working biscuit, the digestive. You know, you put cheese on it, there goes chocolate on it, it's a base for cheesecake. It really is a sort of Renaissance biscuit. It's a great dunker. It's a very, very hard-working biscuit. But have you ever noticed that there is a slightly fishy taste about a digestive?
What have you been dunking them in?
Who have you been dunking them in?
Lord. We're in the world of misnomers, but things that are wrongly called.
Do they give you wind?
They were called digestive because they were supposed to be an anti-flatulent biscuit when they were designed in the 19th century. No, that's right. In America, it's...
You better have one of these. Sorry.
Maybe you stuffed it up, I don't know. But
I'd like to see an advert for this flatulence biscuit. Hey, try a digestive.
We're heading right back down the diarrhea highway again.
Welcome to the United Kingdom, Mr. Hall. The fact is, they are not aids to digestion. In America, it is illegal to call them digestives.
Of course, in America, do you know what we're talking about? Cookies.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right, which is from the Dutch. Koekje, meaning a cake. Which is why you call them cookies. Because what you call a biscuit is more like what we would call, I don't know, a kind of scone thing. You have biscuits and gravy. Explain to the ladies and gentlemen what that is.
Oh, traveller from an arcane land.
What do your people eat?
Everything.
Well, that's the way...
Yeah. Biscuits is made from self-rising flour, and then they just slop gravy over it, and it just takes up room on the plate.
Right. And it's a breakfasty thing or a lunchy thing? Or?
It depends on what trailer park you live in. Sometimes it's 3 meals a day.
Fair enough. Well, 450 digestive biscuits are baked every second in the United Kingdom.
Really?
Yeah.
They are truly the mule of biscuits.
They certainly are. And, Alan, it brings me on to a question for you. What is the difference between a cake and a biscuit?
Oh, that's easy.
Tell.
Well, a cake is soft and a biscuit's hard. Cakes are soft and squidgy and spongy, and biscuits, you can snap them.
What's a Jaffa cake, then?
Very interesting, you should say that.
Well, quite interesting.
No, well, quite interesting, exactly. Exactly. Let's stick to our brief. It's...
Jaffa cake is the exception that proves the rule.
Well, no, it isn't an exception.
See, what happens on this show, Dara, is he thinks I'm an idiot.
Again, but you think my name is an anagram of diarrhea. So...
Exactly.
I'm really on their side at the moment.
Well, actually, I mean, you used the right words. Technically, the difference is that when they go stale, a cake goes hard and a biscuit goes soft. In 1991, the British government, Customs and Excise, decided they wanted to reclassify the Jaffa cake as a biscuit. The weird thing is, there is 0 VAT on cake and biscuit, but there is VAT on chocolate biscuits as a luxury item. So McVitie's went out of their way to try and prove that Jaffa cakes are not chocolate biscuits, they are cakes. And they did so by demonstrating in front of the VAT review board that they went hard when they were stale. And they also cooked a great big 12-inch one to show that it really was a cake that they'd baked.
I always think King Alfred, you know, he was a great man.
Is that a cock ring?
That's a really early cock ring.
It's made of stone.
Oh, they had big knobs then. But King Alfred, who I believe was invented... I'm determined to carry on.
Yes, no, please do.
He invented the navy. He made all sorts of differences. He was an important political figure, but all we remember him for is some business involving cakes.
Yeah.
You, for example, may yet, Stephen, be remembered for something pathetically insignificant.
Absolutely. I once dropped a pack of Abbey Crunch.
So posh.
They're not
really
posh.
They are posh biscuits.
Posh biscuits are ones that are cooked for you by your pastry chef. Actually, there's a true story about the Duke of... I think it was the Duke of Devonshire, but it may not have been. In the Second World War, they would have people from the Ministry of Labour going around checking on everybody, and particularly on the big estates, to see if all these people, someone could be released for essential war work. And they went to Chatsworth, where the Duke of Devonshire's estate was. And they, you know, stopwatch and clipboard, and they checked everybody. And eventually they had an interview with the Duke, and they said, well, Your Grace, we can understand that you need 47 gardeners and 13 under-gardeners, and you need grooms, and you need chauffeurs, and you need upstairs maids and downstairs maids and in-between maids and laundry room maids and still room maids and kitchen maids and nurse maids kitchenmaids and housemaids and parlourmaids, and we can understand that you need the boy to scrape the knives and boots, and you need the butler and the four-footman and the under-butler. But we wonder if a man economy might be made. Does your Grace necessarily need 2 pastry cooks? To which he apparently replied, "Oh, damn it, can't a man have a biscuit?" Which is, I mean, you know, we're all prepared to make sacrifices and beat the Hun, but I mean, really, it's going a bit far, isn't it? Anyway.
Peter Ustinov had rather a good story about it. He said he was at a school that was so posh that on school sports day they had a chauffeur's race. Of course, we call posh cake gâteau, don't we? And the French call posh cake le cake.
Yes. Do you know what biscuit means? What its derivation is? Bis meaning...
Eat, chew,
twice.
Eat, bite.
Twice.
Sweet, hard coffee cup.
Twice. Sweet, hard coffee cup.
Sweet, hard coffee cup accompaniment.
No, it means twice cooked. Biscotti in Italian.
Oh, biscotti is a biscuit.
Biscuit.
They're horrible, though.
Twice
They're like bits
cooked.
of shrapnel.
Yes. But it's fun to do that game with the wrapper that it flies up in the air.
Here's a quite interesting fact. As we know, at the end of a marvellous performance, when we see a live show and you think it's fabulous and you want more, you shout encore.
Yes.
But do you know what the French shout?
Bis?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you do know.
Yes. Sorry. It means twice, yeah.
So they're asking to see the whole damn thing again.
Well, on from biscuits, fingers on buzzers now for our next question. Who invented straight roads? Alan.
The Romans.
Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, dear, I'm afraid not.
You haven't caught me or anything, because I knew that was going to happen.
Did you? Did you? Yes. It's
And
not.
I'll have you know that they did.
No, they didn't. They rebuilt. They rebuilt a lot of straight roads that were already there.
The Romans would make a road that would go 50, 100 miles.
Yes.
Stane Street, that goes from Chichester to London, is 60 or 70 miles long. No one thought to go that far in a straight line until they did.
I think in terms of distance, you may well be right, that they probably built the longest straight roads, but there were
People
many...
would come across the Roman road and go, blimey, this must be a Roman road. They invented going really, really far in a straight line.
Yes, which wasn't the question, sadly. Oh, would that it had been.
But the Romans, presumably, never in the end really got anywhere because all roads lead to Rome.
Indeed. No, there was a dense network of roads in the pre-Roman Iron Age of very straight roads, but you're quite right, they weren't as vast.
Do you know that in America, some of the roads in the Midwest are so straight and go on straight for so long that then they have to make a right turn and then go straight
Really?
again.
Because people go loopy, is it?
No, to account for the curvature of the Earth so that it conforms to the map.
Good God. That's fantastic. Well, there you are.
And do you know that in Montana, a policeman will pull you over because he's lonely? Happens to me all the time.
Why do the Americans drive on the right?
Well, I guess because we invented the f***ing car.
I'm awfully sorry to put you right on that. You didn't even come close to inventing.
We invented the
two
first...
Germans who got there way before. Another proof, of course, is that in Ireland there were many, many, many straight roads, and the Irish were never invaded by the Romans, were you?
No, they never got as far as us, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Which we actually do regret to this day, because we have no great architecture that dates back to then. We have a lack
We've got cromlechs.
Well, we have our own little, mounds and stuff that we're quite happy with, that I had to drag my sorry ass around at school trips for.
Boys, we're off to see a mound today.
And our imagination ran riot, but it was never what we expected.
And do you know why the grass is greener in Ireland than over here?
Is it because of limestone in
No,
the grass?
it's because you're all over here walking on ours. Which brings us neatly to the point where fools rush in and Alan's fear to tread, which is our dose of general ignorance round now. So fingers on buzzers again, if you would, please. What is the collective noun for a group of baboons? Yay.
The Pentagon.
Fantastic. Oddly enough, American politics has a lot to do with it, and not only is the Pentagon an organ of American power, but so is their House.
Capitol Hill, the White House.
The House is known
the
as...
House of Representatives.
It's the Congress.
The Congress.
It's a Congress.
It's a Congress of baboons.
Yeah, but the reason we asked the question is...
Congress of baboons.
Very good. But there is a quite interesting fact about a new word that is beginning to replace Congress, and it has a very odd history, this word. It comes from a comedy sketch on BBC television in a series called Not the 9 O'Clock News. There was a sketch called Gerald the Gorilla, in which Rowan Atkinson played it. And
Wild.
He makes mention... That's right, Wild. I was furious, exactly. The production on that album. But, there's a point where he talks about a group, or flange, as we call them, of gorillas. And this was just made up by Richard Curtis, or whoever wrote the sketch, that particular sketch. But it's now on the net. And there is, I can quote you here, from a book called Sex and Friendship in Baboons by Barbara B. Smuts. This is a review...
He's read every book in the world.
This is a review at Amazon.com, and it's a serious academic study, and it says, in this marvellous book, Smuts draws from years of painstaking field research in which he followed around a flange of Chacma baboons in the Matete Game Reserve in Zimbabwe. And a word has migrated from a comedy sketch into the internet and is now being used by academics as the official word. And while on the subject of animals, who can tell me which mammals have the most bones in their noses? Yep. Alan.
Crocodiles.
It isn't crocodiles, as it happens.
I was going to say elephants, but I think it's really stupid.
Thank you. Oh, bless you for that.
Anteaters.
I did it to please the researcher.
Did you say anteater?
Yes.
Well, the answer is an anteater, so you should have some points. Particular kind, probably the most famous kind of anteater in some ways.
Aardvark.
Aardvark is the right answer. It has 9 or 10.
Do you know, I can say in Danish, I have spilt coffee on the anteater.
I would like you to do that for us now.
Jeg har spildt kaffe på myreslør.
Elephants, of course, have no bones in their noses whatsoever. So our next question is, according to the inventor of centigrade, what's the boiling point of water?
I'm not falling for that.
Yes.
Oh, dear, no, I'm going to say something stupid, aren't I? 100 degrees.
Oh, dear. No, it's obvious that you'd think it's a reasonable thing to say. The inventor of centigrade was a man called Anders...
Celsius.
Celsius is quite right. From 1701 to 1744 he lived, a short but fruitful life.
Spent all that time going, oh, that's hot. That's hot, that's colder, that's hot.
But that's quite chilly.
I should call that 1.
He decided that water should boil at 0 degrees and that ice would melt at 100. Because naught is actually now, of course it's the other way around, naught is not the point at which water freezes in centigrade, it's the point at which ice melts. Yeah.
0 is actually more than that, and I'm giving you a scientific fact because I don't wish to be associated with diarrhoea for the rest of the show. The 0 is actually the triple point of water. It's the first temperature at which water can exist in all 3 states, because you can actually get water vapour, which is at 0 as well.
Oh, very good. You must have some points for that. And this round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Round of applause. You like that.
Thank you very much for the point, and in particular because for the private moment I had there where I remembered that when I was told that in school at 16 and went, when the f*** am I ever going to use that piece of...
Hooray! It happened, you see. But here's one. Which is colder, -40 centigrade or -40 Fahrenheit?
-40 centigrade.
No, they're both actually...
They're both the same. They're the one point at which the two
where
things
they
are the
meet.
So which came first, Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit came first.
The interesting thing about the British is what we do is we use centigrade when it's cold, and we use Fahrenheit when it's hot. Yes. So we go, oh, when it's hot summer, we go to the 90s, it's 92. But when it's really cold, we go, it's -3, it's -5. We don't say it's 28, which is what it would be in Fahrenheit. We do, we're very inconsistent, aren't we? Well, from that to, what did Mussolini do?
Made the trains run on time. Oh.
No, he didn't. You could argue he made one particular train run on time. In 1922, there was a general strike in Italy, much to the annoyance of many Italian people, and certainly to the annoyance of the king, Umberto. And the fascists, led by Mussolini, were gathered in Naples, and Mussolini made this ferocious speech saying, we shall march on Rome, and we shall sort this out, we shall seize power if we're not offered it, and we shall end this strike. And Roma, Roma, Roma was shouted, and the famous March on Rome began. Mussolini himself went to Milan, didn't go on the march because he was rather scared. He was quaking in his jackboots. But it turned out to be a great success. And the king offered him power and said, you must get on the train from Milan, where he was, to Rome, and I will offer you the prime ministership. So he rang up the station master at Milan and said, this train has to run on time. And it was the one train he definitely made run on time. But all the other improvements in the Italian transport system were actually made before he came to power.
Garibaldi, that's a type of biscuit.
It's a type of biscuit.
Certainly it's a type of biscuit.
It cracks. It's the difference. You can't crack a cake.
No. Good. Well, that's all very exciting. That's Mussolini for you. No evidence that he made Italian trains run on time at all. Let's have another question. Which eye did Nelson wear his eye patch on? Anybody haven't thought? Yes.
The right eye.
It was a little unfair.
He didn't wear one.
He didn't wear one, ever. He never wore an eye patch.
He never wore an eye patch, he just went like that.
Only in Ladybird books did he wear an eye patch. That's a very strange man, Nelson. He bought, for about 25 shillings, these silver stars. He was given all kinds of titles by the King of Naples, and he bought them all and put them on a sash and stood on the quarterdeck of the Victory like this, covered and shining in stars. And from 50 feet away, the French shot him. Perhaps not surprisingly. There's an argument. He never actually lost an eye. He just lost the sight of his eye, in fact. Did you know that Lady Hamilton was vastly overweight and had a Lancashire accent?
I thought you were going to say overrated, then.
I'd give her a 6.
It seems a bit unfair on anyone watching from Lancashire that you seem to yoke together fat with and a Lancashire accent.
I only tried to make the point that it's surprising. It's not what you think. If you watch Vivian Leigh play her opposite Laurence Olivier in the film...
She doesn't talk like Liam Gallagher.
No, she doesn't. Ooh, I wouldn't have him if he came with nested tables. No, it's not that kind of thing. So, that's all from us. Let's look at the scores. In last place, we have Alan with -20, I'm sorry to say. Just ahead is Arthur Smith with -18. on +2 points, it's Rich Hall on 2, and our runaway winner on 4 points is Dara O'Brien. Well, there you are. So that's all from Rich, Arthur, Dara, Alan and me. As they say in Ireland, may you get to heaven a half hour before the devil knows you're dead. Good night. What comes from Glasgow and glows in the dark?
Is it Sir Alex Ferguson's nose?
You are seeing your QR, switch to BBC 4 now.